My husband said, I've been lying to myself. Your cousin is the woman I should have married. I smiled, nodded once, and said, then don't let me stop you. What he didn't know was that sentence would end his old life and accidentally start mine. When people ask how long we were married, I still pause before answering. 6 years sounds respectable, long enough to matter. But if I'm honest, we were only really married for about 3. The rest was routine, silence. 2 people sharing space without sharing direction. Ethan wasn't cruel. That's what made it confusing. He paid bills on time, remembered birthdays, held my hand in public, but at home his attention lived inside his phone, scrolling, liking, comparing, and every comparison quietly led back to the same person. My cousin Lily. Lily had always been effortless, the kind of beauty that didn't ask for permission. At family gatherings, people leaned toward her without realizing it. I noticed Ethan watching her long before I admitted it to myself. The posture shift, the laugh that lingered a second too long. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. That's what you do when the truth feels too expensive to accept. The pregnancy test had been sitting in my purse for 3 days. I checked it again that morning in a gas station bathroom. Still positive. I stared at my reflection, trying to memorize the version of myself who still believed this news could fix something. I imagined telling Ethan, his surprise, his relief. Hope carried me all the way home. That night, Ethan barely looked up from his phone during dinner. Halfway through chewing, he said casually, Lily messaged me today. My stomach tightened. He continued, she gets me in a way you don't. Not angry, not emotional, just factual, like he was explaining the weather. I waited for him to laugh, to say he was joking. Instead, he added, she fits the life I want now. Something inside me shut down. No screaming, no tears, just clarity. I asked one question. Are you in love with her? He didn't answer immediately. That pause told me everything. I think I always was, he said. I stood up slowly, walked to the bedroom, pulled out a suitcase. He followed, confused now. You're overreacting, he said. I didn't reply. I folded his clothes neatly and placed the suitcase by the door. Then I said, take what's yours. Leave what isn't. He stared at me like I'd broken character. You're not even going to fight for this? I looked at him for a long second. No, I said. I'm tired of competing with someone who doesn't know she's in the race. He left that night. No slammed door. No final glance. Just the quiet confidence of someone who already knew where he was going. He came back the next morning for the rest of his things. Her hair tie was around his wrist, pink, stretched. Her perfume clung to his jacket. That's when denial finally died. I sat on the edge of the bed after he left, holding the pregnancy test in my hand. I thought about calling him, about begging. Instead, I threw it in the trash and took the day off work. Telling my family hurt more than the divorce. My mother sighed and said, marriage is complicated. My aunt smiled awkwardly and said, Lily's always been persuasive. No one said Ethan was wrong. No one said Lily crossed a line. They spoke like something unfortunate had simply happened to everyone equally. 3 weeks later, I started bleeding at work. By the time I reached the hospital, I already knew. The doctor spoke gently, used words like common and stress-related. I nodded like I understood. Inside, everything went quiet. I drove home with the radio off. Streetlights passed one by one. That's when I saw the sign. Gym staff needed, no experience required. I didn't think. I parked. The woman at the desk looked up, mid-50s, arms like coiled rope. She asked, what brings you here? I almost told her everything. Instead, I said, I need something to hurt that isn't my thoughts. She smiled. You'll fit in, she said. That night, I went home exhausted. For the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming. And that's where everything started to change. The gym didn't feel heroic at first. It smelled like metal and disinfectant. The mirrors were unforgiving. Every reflection reminded me how little control I'd had over my own life. The first week, I only cleaned. Swept floors, wiped machines, replaced towels. No one spoke to me much, and I liked it that way. Silence felt safer than sympathy. The soreness came fast. My arms ached just from lifting plates back onto racks. My back burned from leaning over benches. At night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my body exhausted but my mind refusing to slow down. That's when the memories showed up. the pauses in Ethan's voice, the way Lily smiled too comfortably around him, the way I ignored it because confronting it meant losing everything. I learned something important during those nights. Pain doesn't disappear when you avoid it. It waits. The gym owner's name was Mara. She didn't believe in motivational speeches, she believed in repetition. One afternoon, she handed me a barbell. Try, she said. I laughed nervously. I don't lift, she shrugged. Then today, you learn. The bar was heavier than I expected. My hands shook. My arms burned. I failed on the third rep. Mara didn't rush over, didn't correct me. She just said, "Good. Now you know your starting point." Something about that sentence stayed with me. I started coming in early, not to work, to lift, no music, no phone, just counting reps until my thoughts finally got quiet. The silence after exertion felt earned. Ethan texted me for the first time 2 months after leaving. "Hope you're okay." I stared at the screen for a long time, then I deleted the message, not out of anger, out of self-respect. Lily tried next. She sent a long message about how unexpected everything had been, how she never meant to hurt anyone. I didn't respond. Closure from people who benefited from your pain is rarely honest. Weeks turned into months. My body changed slowly, then suddenly. I stood straighter, moved with intention. People at the gym started asking me questions. "How do you do that movement? What's your routine?" Mara watched quietly. One night, she said, "Ever thought about training?" I laughed again. "No one listens to me," I said. She tilted her head. "Strong people do." She paid for my certification, didn't ask for anything in return. "Just don't waste it," she said. I studied after work, late nights, protein bars for dinner. When I passed, I cried in my car because for once, the tears felt earned. Clients came slowly, one woman, then two. They didn't come for motivation. They came for honesty. I didn't promise transformation. I promised effort. That seemed to matter more. Ethan started watching my stories. Never liked them, just watched. I could feel his presence without hearing his voice. It annoyed me, then it fueled me. Lily stopped posting together photos, then stopped posting altogether. Family gossip filled the gaps. She seemed stressed. They're having issues. I didn't ask questions. Their problems were no longer my responsibility. Money changed everything, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet one. Rent paid early, groceries without checking prices, choices without fear. One client introduced me to her brother, an investor with cautious eyes. Another helped me find a small, empty building. It smelled like dust and old paint. The ceiling leaked. I signed the lease anyway. Fear felt familiar by then. The first month was brutal. No days off, no safety net. I slept on a mattress on the floor, ate canned soup, counted every dollar. Some nights I wondered if Ethan was right. If I'd been difficult, if I'd deserved being replaced, those thoughts didn't last long, not after the morning workouts. Ethan messaged again. "You've changed." I typed back once, so have my priorities. Then I blocked him. The gym started filling up. Word spread, no influencers, no filters. Just women who felt ignored and men who were tired of pretending strength meant silence. I watched something build that had nothing to do with anyone else's approval. And for the first time since the divorce, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt like I was choosing. The opening of the gym was quiet. No grand launch, no influencers, no dramatic speeches, just unlocked doors and a handwritten sign taped to the glass. The first week, people wandered in cautiously. They looked around like they were waiting to be told they didn't belong. I made sure they never felt that way. 6 weeks later, we had more members than I expected. 3 months later, the numbers made sense. Rent, salaries, equipment, all covered. Profit wasn't massive, but it was real, earned. I stopped bracing for disaster and started planning for growth. That's when Ethan reached out again. A longer message this time. He said he'd seen what I'd built, said he was proud of me, said it hurt watching me become someone else. I didn't reply. Pride from someone who walked away arrives too late to matter. The wedding invitation came 2 weeks later. Thick paper, elegant font, my name written carefully, like an apology disguised as etiquette. My family begged me to attend. They said it would bring closure. They said it would prove I'd moved on. I didn't want to go. Not because I was afraid, because I was finally at peace. Marcus convinced me. He didn't pressure me. He didn't guilt me. He simply said, "You don't owe them anything, but you don't owe fear control either." That was when I realized how different love feels when it's healthy. Marcus and I had met through work. No drama, no chase, just steady conversations and quiet consistency. He never tried to fix me, never asked me to be smaller. When I told him about the baby I'd lost, he didn't rush to respond. He just held my hand and stayed. That was enough. The venue was crowded when we arrived. Conversation slowed as people noticed us. I felt eyes follow me, searching for cracks. I stood straighter, not to prove anything. Out of habit, strength had changed my posture. Ethan looked thinner, tired. Lily looked beautiful in the way exhaustion tries to hide behind makeup. When she saw me, her smile faltered. When she saw Marcus, it disappeared. During the reception, Ethan kept watching us, not subtly, not respectfully, like someone watching a life he thought would wait for him. Halfway through the toast, he stood up unannounced. The room quieted out of politeness, then discomfort. He admitted everything, that he was infertile, that Lily's pregnancy wasn't his, that he'd lied because admitting the truth meant facing himself. Lily froze, her face drained of color, phones lifted, whispers spread faster than words. Then Ethan turned to me. He said my name like it still belonged to him, said he'd made a mistake, said I was always the one. He stepped toward me like the past could be rewritten mid-sentence. Marcus stepped forward first, calm, silent, present. I placed my hand on my stomach. The baby kicked right on cue, a reminder, a boundary. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult him. I said one sentence. All future communication goes through our lawyers. Then we left. The fallout was immediate. Messages, calls, accusations, apologies, family members choosing sides they never earned. I documented everything, protected my business, protected my child. Lily's truth surfaced quickly. Ethan signed away any claim he thought he had left, not out of kindness, out of necessity. Peace returned slowly. Quiet mornings, predictable evenings, the kind of stability I once thought was boring. It wasn't. It was freedom. My daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday. The gym staff covered shifts without being asked. Clients sent food, cards, messages that said things like, "You changed my life," without realizing they had done the same for me. Months later, Ethan sent one final message. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. Happiness doesn't need witnesses from the past. I used to think being chosen meant being loved. I was wrong. Being chosen by yourself is louder, stronger, permanent. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so full, so intentional that they no longer recognize where they would fit.